welcome to the podcast. And today we have Ingrid, formerly Flora, thank you. Welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Matt. I'm so happy to be here.
Perfect. We're going to jump in on our first question right away because we want to create value for our listeners and get them learning right away. So what is digital accessibility in simple terms to you?
Ooh, this is a good question, Matt. I will say before I answer that question, usually most people are not aware that accessibility is simply about providing information for everyone without exception. And with that being said, I would love to introduce and describe myself because sometimes there are people who are unable to see. So describing yourself could be a preference, but it also gives some kind of information as to your ethnicity or background to those who are low vision or those who are blind. So I am a Black woman. I'm always smiling. I am currently rocking some, wavy hair, and I'm having I will say a copper or orange blaze with a black jumpsuit.
Beautiful. That was such a detailed and great description. I'm going to have to practice that. Thank you for sharing that.
You
and
are welcome.
We're going to have to think about that, put that into practice.
Definitely.
So
just to answer the question now, what is accessibility or what is digital accessibility? Well, that simply said again, is just about providing access to information, to product, to services, or even to, social, to everyone. Again, we're talking about people with disabilities, visible or invisible. Sometimes you see a person and you think, oh, this person is just fine. They don't have a disability, but that person could be colorblind, but you don't know.
Right.
And so it's also good for people without disabilities who have maybe family members with a disability or who might need a little boost. Matt, I, for example, is quite funny.
Yeah.
I don't have a disability, but I have sometimes a hard time viewing or reading content on my computer or somewhere a little bit farther than, in place, just because I have dry eyes. I use a lot of computer work and things like that. And my doctor was like, yeah, I see blurry from time to time. And he said, you need artificial tears. So having a space or a website, for example, that is accessible can allow me and other people to have that little boost of clarity just to access information.
Wonderful. That is very important, right? Access to information with the internet and with all the things is highly prevalent. You have to have it. And we live in a digital world at this point.
Definitely.
And so accessibility and digital accessibility seems like a very big topic. And thank you. I do have an invisible disability as well, which is type 1 diabetes. So I understand that need. So Thank you for doing this important work.
Thank you.
And for advocating for all of us.
Thank you.
So what's the first step? Why should every business care about accessibility?
I will say business should care about accessibility if they are wanting to attract more clients. There are more than 1.3 billion people with a disability in the world. And so not having website or digital presence online that are accessible will mean that you're probably excluding or rejecting many clients.
Right.
Another thing, it will be, has to do, I don't usually like to say that, but it has to do with lawsuit.
Yeah.
There is a lot of laws out there and act and regulation in many countries. In Canada, in Ontario, for example, we have the AODA, the Accessibility for Ontarians with a Disability Act, that is requiring organizations to be more accessible, more inclusive to everyone. In America, we have the ADA, the Americans with Disability Act. Over there, the same rule apply. We want more people to have access.
Yeah.
And in Europe, just recently, in June 28, 2025, there is a new act that just came in law, the EAA. Okay. European with Accessibility Act, and they are mandating more organizations, private and public, to be inclusive and accessible if you want to do business with European country, you have to abide by those requirements.
Amazing.
So very important for many reasons.
Yeah.
And they also help with innovation, because for the longest time, people have been creating content or, digital presences that are not, for example, helping those who with invisible or visible disabilities.
Right.
So thinking about a different way usually create innovation,
Perfect.
which is perfect.
Yeah. That's amazing. And you're so knowledgeable to even know those acronyms. I know a couple of them, but you know all of them and did it so well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So if we talk about that, what are the first steps that can make a website more accessible?
To make a website more accessible, already the first step is to wanting to create inclusive experiences for everyone. Let's just talk about the human level, right?
Yeah.
Most businesses are created to serve others. And sometimes people tend to forget. They're like, no, it's just business. We have to just do the thing. No, you do that for people. And to attract people, you have to make it inclusive, right? So we need to think about different community who might be able to use your product, your services, your information. And so after thinking about this inclusive thought as a leader, you now think about what expert can I bring on board if, for example, the team does not have that knowledge to assess what we have right now, just to gauge where we are. Maybe we're good to go, or maybe we're not.
Yeah.
We have several gaps. So now you bring maybe an accessibility specialist, an accessibility tester, an accessibility expert to come and guide and assess your product. Once you have a report, that report will pretty much tell you if it's a failure or if it's a win. But again, the expert will be able to guide you through the next step. How do you fix it? How do you support your team who might not have the knowledge? But you can work and collaborate hand to hand to get to that product that is really welcoming everyone.
Wonderful.
Yes.
That's great. Yeah. Great idea to bring somebody in who knows all the different steps.
Yes.
So that they can guide you and make it a painless process, a more
Definitely.
pain-free process.
More pain-free. There are tools out there also, Matt, that you can use. But again, if you do not have the knowledge, so hear me out. Here's the illustration, right? Imagine, will you prefer to have a cook, a chef, who knows what to do and could be, presented with a poorly, I will say a kitchen that is not really, high end.
Yeah.
Will you go with a cook that has no knowledge about cooking, but you give them good tools? I mean, which one do you prefer?
Which dinner do I want to eat? Yeah, I think I know the answer.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure I want that professional chef.
The professional chef. So sometimes tools are great, but if people don't know how to use it, it's pretty much useless.
Yeah.
So you need to equip your people first.
Yeah.
And so they will know how to use the tools, and then all that again work together.
Yeah, that's a great and digestible analogy. I love it. What, on that note, sort of, maybe what are common mistakes that maybe companies can make if they're doing that?
Definitely. Some of the mistakes that I see a lot happening, Matt, are things like, if you're thinking about a person who is blind and not able to see your website, and you have an amazing deal. Let's say you have, maybe it's a cruise. I love cruise anyway. Or maybe it's a deal for a specific product, but you put it on an image and you put, 20% off or 50% off with this code. It's on an image. So a person who's blind will not see that image.
Yeah.
And they're using what is called a screen reader, which usually will go through the page and tell them or read out loud the information. But images, that tool cannot guess what that image is about. So you need to put a descriptive text for that image. And usually the developers will be able to just add that information behind the code so that the screen reader will read it and tell the person exactly, hey, this is a deal, 20% off on the cruise. But without the proper knowledge, again, the developer usually don't do that.
Right.
So they will hear maybe a file name, 123 JPEG. And they're like, what? What is that? They just hear graphic. That's it. I don't know
Oh my
what graphic
goodness.
means. So you're really losing
Wow.
attracting more clients just
Right.
because you didn't put the information of
Yeah.
the image. There are more issues sometimes that happen, like the buttons. Like let's say you want to log in on a fabulous website,
Yeah.
like a podcast,
Yeah.
right? And people have to enter the information and click the submit button or login button. But the developer did not put the name of the button. So for the person, they just hear button. One is maybe a delete button, one is a login, but which one is it? Because it both will say button.
Oh my
And they're like,
goodness.
you know?
Yeah,
Which
what do I
one?
do?
One will delete
Oh
the
my
whole
yeah.
form, and the other one will let me through. But which
Wow.
one? So things like that happen, but not just for people who are blind. There are situations also for people with low vision or
Right.
people who are deaf. Sometimes you provide content just in audio form,
Right.
but having it in text will also help people, or just a closed caption will help. There are so many things, but it's quite easy if you have an expert supporting.
Yeah, I like that. So the common mistake is, thinking it's maybe too hard.
Yes.
You got to get somebody who can show you a little bit of a path. That's
Yes.
amazing. And I think it relates to the earlier question when we said, why is it important to business?
Yeah.
Well, it's highly important to business.
is.
If somebody wants to buy your thing and they just can't hit the button, like your $1.3 billion 1.3 billion people aren't going on a cruise.
And usually, you know what's funny? Sometimes when I speak to organization, they think that, it's just one person with a disability. We are good. But what they forget is that a person with a disability have a family. Sometimes they're married. I remember a friend of mine, he is in tech. He's a manager. He has a whole family. He has 4 or 5 kids and a wife and chicken and everything. But he loves traveling.
Yeah.
Imagine just closing the door to this person who is a father, a provider. You just close the door to everyone and maybe his community.
Right.
Maybe he's traveling with friends.
Yeah.
That's a big vacation.
I like that.
You just close the door
You just
for everyone.
5x to the 1.3 billion, right? Like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. And that's good business. I like that.
Yes.
So on topic of some of those things that people make mistakes of, what does an accessibility audit, which is I think what you were referring to at the beginning when you said this is how we get started, what does that actually check?
The accessibility audit, the report that will be provided to the organization who is seeking to assess the level of access in their website or maybe on the application, it could be on a mobile phone, it could be maybe a PDF, any document also will work. We'll give them a rundown of the different guidelines that have been recognized and used by, pretty much globally. One of them is called the WCAG, the Web Content Accessibility Guideline. There are many guidelines out there, but the WCAG helps, for example, with website.
Yeah.
So think about it like, when you go to court, lawyer have to reference some kind of guidelines or, the laws in order to pass certain things.
Right.
With accessibility, it's the same thing. People don't just wake up and say, okay, let's just, say that it's bad.
Yeah.
No, they have to follow a certain guideline and they will create a report based on those guidelines.
Right.
Now, some people get confused with the guidelines because there are so many versions, but actually the guidelines are evolving. Before we used to have WCAG 2.0, and then we moved to 2.1. Now, organizations are now slowly embracing 2.2, and there is a 3.0 coming. When I say that to people, they're like, what? We haven't even finished with the first version and you guys are adding more. No, it's just that there are more knowledge around some of the limitation for those with disabilities. And before with the 2.0, it was more prone toward desktop view. But many people, like you, for example, are using mobile.
Yeah.
Some are moving toward virtual. So as we are evolving with technology and with the understanding of the community, of those who are, excluded, the guidelines are changing just to make sure that we are serving more people. Like I used to say, imagine you have a small restaurant, but is getting so much, attraction. There's more people that are coming. Will you just keep the restaurant small? No, you might go bigger. So you serve more people. So the same apply to the guideline. As they understand the needs, it's just evolving to help you. Not to reject or give you a pain, but to help you.
Yes. Yeah. So they should be saying instead, wow, I'm so excited that we're getting more people to be accessing our website, and that someone is doing the work to tell me what I need to do.
Exactly.
So I'm thinking about it differently. Thank you for sharing that. That makes a lot of sense. Yes, work is work, but if it's for a good cause, if we're doing good things, and it's good for business.
It is good for business.
The triple bottom line of social responsibility, right?
Yes. Can you imagine, for example, that you have a website that is not let's say an airplane that is not accessed, and there are actually a few gaps on the airplane. Ooh. That can cost a lot.
Yeah, that's going to cost
lives and money. But the same apply with websites. Some people don't think about it, but it's a good thing because you're really attracting more people and you are getting more money.
Right. And if you don't have a website, I often say you don't have a business.
Yes.
You have to have a website.
Yes.
And you have to have an accessible website. I'm going to change it now. I'm going to say you can't just have a website. You have to have an accessible website.
Exactly.
Because you told me so.
Love it.
I think we have room for a couple more questions, so I'm going to pick a few, and I want to say one thing how can inaccessibility, because we've talked about accessibility, but how can that hurt a brand or business? And I know we talked about, reducing the scope, but maybe some of that compliance and what's coming up.
Yes.
What are some of the risks associated with non-compliance?
Yes. So non-compliance website will reject 1.3 billion potential customers.
Yes.
The other thing that will happen, lawsuit.
Yeah.
So because of all the acts and regulation in many countries, like in America, Canada, even some countries in Europe, many organizations that are not complying will be fined in some cases, or they may go under lawsuit, because now some of the people who are marginalized, people with disabilities, are out there on social media really, breaking the reputation of some of those companies that are not inclusive. But not only that, lawyers also take those people and those organizations to court.
Yeah.
And it costs a lot. I mean, there are many cases out there. Target, even Beyonce, love Beyonce.
Oh, no.
She went through, a lawsuit because someone who was blind realized that they couldn't really buy the ticket, or they couldn't online. So that was a big deal. So small organization also could be going through some lawsuit, but again, it really depends on, certain factors. Yeah. But you have to keep in mind that inclusive experiences online for everyone is just good business. It's a smart business decision.
I love that idea around good business, not just in the sense of dollars and cents, but good business for good, right? We're doing it for good reasons. Yes. Incredible. I love that about you, that you're doing something for good reason and doing good business. It's incredible.
Thank you.
I want to ask one more question, and I'm going to maybe ask about yourself a little bit. And so I think the biggest question here that I see is what do you do to influence or help leaders understand that significance? What do you tell them to ensure that they're going to pay attention?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that there are many ways to go about it. And it's usually sometimes it depends on who am I talking to? Is that person caring about people in the business? If I'm talking about a leader, a visionary, they usually have a bigger picture and a bigger needs, so at that point I can mention, for example, the community of people with disability with additional stats, because those people love the stats and also they love to see what will be the ROI, the return on investment. So at that time, these are the information I can bring and share with the leader. If I'm talking to a manager who is more of a doer, and the technology, then I have to talk about, how easy it is to make the solution inclusive and accessible, because most of the time the techie people, they want people to use their solution.
Yeah.
They don't want a solution that are rejecting people. Yeah. So at that point, it's more of, what technology you can use, try the screen reader, get the feeling and things like that. But I love, for the longest time, I have been working in technology, and I didn't know that community was such an important thing, so much so that I started really connecting with people with disabilities, inviting more people to join me, share their stories.
Yeah.
And you will be amazed, Matt, at what you're hearing. People with disability are such smart people. If you give them a chance to connect or send feedback, they will innovate anything, like seriously. I just love it.
They figure it out, right? They have to hack sometimes because maybe they haven't had the tools and systems just there for them. They have to troubleshoot.
Exactly. And sometimes, just having that communication. And I think that what I've noticed, Matt, is that sometimes leaders are afraid. And it's normal. Sometimes when we don't know certain things, we get a little bit, that feeling of, I don't know if I want to give it a try or not.
Yep.
But give it a try. I remember I saw an ad from, I believe, was it Apple? A person with a mobility disability. She cannot move her hand. She cannot move her body. She's just like on a wheelchair. She literally created a full-blown ad for Apple, if I'm not mistaken. But don't quote me. You can Google. I was so impressed with the edit and the content. And when they show her finally, she using her voice or her smile to control the computer. I had hired someone with a mobility disability before, and he uses his eyeglasses to move the mouse around or use his voice to do things. And so that's why I said, people, listen, accessibility make your website smarter. Yeah. You don't even need to use your hands anymore. You can just voice, and the command will just carry on, Wow. It's quite incredible. And with sometimes my vision being blurry, I need a break from my computer. So I use a screen reader, like a person who's blind, but I'm not blind. I just need a break. So I use the screen reader, I tap, and the screen reader just read what needs to be done or whatever. And I'm like, thank you very much, screen reader. Yeah. Love it.
Amazing. So I really do like how you present that information differently based on the needs of who you are going to talk to.
Exactly.
And that you really do have a great understanding of what those needs at the different levels are.
Yes.
Commendable. Amazing.
Thank you.
So much has been shared. You are truly an expert on this matter. And I know a little bit about it. I know I didn't let on to that, but I do know a little bit about it. I studied it in school. And so I can absolutely tell that you are on it. That's amazing. So how did you get here? What is the path to getting to being so good and knowledgeable in, accessibility needs?
I think that if I have to say it in a simple way, so I was raised and born in a small country in West Africa called Burkina Faso. I'm actually even wearing a necklace of the African continent. And I had the chance to travel and live in many places because my father used to work for the WHO, the World Health Organization. I loved it. Meeting new people, eating new food, oh my gosh, was so good. But I also experienced exclusion. I was excluded because I was a girl. I wanted to play with the boys, and they said, no, you're a girl, go play with Barbie. Or sometimes because of language, because we moved to different places where French was not the primary language, or sometimes because of skin color, or sometimes because of culture. So I didn't like that part. I wanted just inclusion. Include me. I might not be able to speak like you, but I will understand eventually if you give me a chance. So that part, I didn't like it. And I fall in love eventually with website. Never before in my head, a website asked me, are you a girl? Before letting me browse. Are you black? Before letting... Website don't do that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe some do, but...
That's an incredible thought. I love that.
I've never heard that. So I thought website was just the most inclusive thing ever until... When I fast forward work in the field and creating website, someone asked me when I was looking for a new job opportunity, how will you purchase something if you were blind and alone on a computer
That was
online?
an interview question that sparked
Yes.
this. Wow.
Exactly. And I was like, wait, what? You know, when people are designing website, they kind of assume that people can see immediately. You know, we are all biased to our own abilities.
User interface, right?
Exactly. And so I was like, wait a minute, that must be something that person can hear. And then I got introduced to the world of screen readers and things like that. But not only that, the feeling of exclusion from my childhood just went rushing through me. And I was like, oh my goodness, websites are excluding people. I didn't know that. So I started learning a little bit more around technology, accessibility, and the disability community. And that's really how I started my journey because, again, remember for me, inclusion is good business for everyone, but it also makes people feel seen, acknowledged, and allow them to participate. So that's really how I started my journey. And since then, no stop.
I love it. This is, thank you so much. And I so appreciate the idea that you're doing good things in good ways. And the inspiration of it all was just to help people feel better.
Yes.
Yeah, that's incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate that.